Breaking news from the U.S. Supreme Court. Major decisions on birthright citizenship, males identifying as females and playing in women's sports, and campaign spending for Congress and the presidency. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. So the High Court moments ago rejected President Trump's attempt to limit birthright citizenship. This was not a shock. A lot of experts and legal eagles had already foreseen this. The vote was close, 5-4, with Justices John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett voting with liberal justices Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. The crux of the case rested on the 14th Amendment, which states this: all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Critics argued birthright citizenship incentivized illegal immigration into the U.S. A separate decision elicited cheers outside the court. All right, so you had birthright citizenship. That was a no, but this is equally as huge. Justices moved to uphold Idaho and West Virginia laws, so state laws blocking men who identify as women from competing in women's sports. Peyton McNabb was injured by a transgender opponent in a volleyball game. She spoke with Fox News earlier about the critically important part of today's ruling.
I'm just feeling so blessed. Of course, this is something that means a lot to me, and it affected me personally. And, you know, there's a lot of eyes on this. Across the country, there's families, there's parents, and there's coaches and daughters who are watching this decision being made. And I'm just so thankful that they get to understand that they are protected and it's okay for their state to protect them, because, I mean, that's all it was.
Chief Legal Correspondent Shannon Bream is at the courthouse now with the latest on these consequential rulings. Shannon.
So, Harris, I know you have a serious competitive female athlete in your house, and we're watching this very closely. Justice Kavanaugh does, too. His young girls are athletes, and he coaches them. He's the one who authored this opinion. And he says this. He says women and girls should be allowed to compete for life-changing opportunities on an equal playing field. He mentions they shouldn't have fear of physical injury from biological males or being forced to compete against biological males. So, as you said, these 27 states that have these laws, they can proceed with those laws. A win also for conservatives and for Republicans who brought a case dealing with campaign spending and finance. But what it ends up doing is opening up spending in a way that benefits any party, the RNC, the DNC, and the way that they coordinate with particular candidates. But the big one that the president and most of us were waiting on was birthright citizenship. I got to tell you, after the arguments, I thought it might be a more lopsided decision, but it essentially was very tight, much tighter than we thought it was going to be. And you saw Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Barrett siding with the three liberal justices in this case. Justice Kavanaugh kind of splitting the baby in the dissents there by Thomas, Alito, and Gorsuch. So it wraps up a huge term, a split, you know, a win and a loss for the White House today. But you already see the president celebrating that big win when it comes to West Virginia and Idaho being able to uphold their laws with regard to trans athletes in women's sports. All
right, we'll get into more on that particular issue, too. We have a very, very special guest coming up in just a few minutes with regard to that. But I want to bring in Jonathan Turley now into our conversation, Shannon, constitutional law attorney, George Washington University law professor, and a Fox News contributor. So I'm just going to ask a plain blank question that I have seen all over the internet in recent days with U.S. Supreme Court decisions. Is Amy Coney Barrett a true conservative? What is the metric around her joining liberals?
Well, Barrett has really drawn a lot of barbs on the internet and from many Republicans who are disappointed in how she has voted. She has voted against the administration on some critical cases. But it's important to also note she has voted with the administration on a great number of cases. She is a conservative jurist, but she is very independently minded. And, you know, I know that's hard for people to accept. In birthright citizenship, passions are high. There were good faith arguments on both sides here. You can't really paint one side as outrageously out of line. This has been debated for decades. And when it comes to Barrett and Gorsuch as good examples, I think that President Trump made this a much better court with his 3 nominees. They are extraordinary jurists. Yes, they disagree with him at times. But when they were nominated, President Trump said he wanted to have independent and principled minds on the court. He got them. And at times they vote against him, but they often vote in favor of these conservative values. And this day is going to be a good example of why this mantra to pack the court with an instant liberal majority is so unconnected to reality. I mean, this court continues to exercise great independence and integrity. You can disagree with them. I've disagreed with them this term and in other terms. Yeah.
But, excuse me, Jonathan, I would just make this argument. If you're listening to some of the far left and socialists, I want to take this too far down a political, but just to push back a little bit on what you're saying. If you're listening to some of those candidates, and some of them are winning primaries right now, packing the court is on that list. And so it may be very balanced in the way that you're laying it out right now, but it's never going to be enough for the left, and particularly the far left. They get back into office in any sort of majority sense, or the White House, or both, bicamerally plus the White House, which is what the president enjoys right now, President Trump. And you can bet this is on the short list of things to do. No one is arguing with that on that other side of the aisle from Republicans. I do want to get to this because I think it might get a little bit buried today. The federal campaign spending was a win for Republicans. What can you tell me about that, Jonathan?
That was a huge win, and it's consistent with the Citizens United case that said that money is speech. You know, when you say you want to bar money from this group or limit money in this way, it does have an impact on speech. Now, there are still individual limits on contributions, which may become increasingly in conflict with these other cases. Those remained in place after this decision. But what the court says today is that this really is a form of speech. People use their money to amplify their views. They go to political groups in order to campaign, both on the left and the right. This benefits both sides. But there is a coherence and consistency here. Now, politically, this is a big advantage for the GOP. This is one of their top issues that they wanted to secure. And it was very well argued. This was also a case argued, strangely enough, by Mark Elias. And many of us were very surprised when the Democrats picked Elias, who was connected to the Steele dossier and the Clinton campaign and is a very controversial lawyer. I wrote a column at that time saying I couldn't imagine a more ill-considered choice to try to get that conservative majority to accept these limits. Clearly, he did not win the day. And so the question at this point is, what is going to be the after effect of this decision? As many like Trey Gowdy pointed out in the previous hour, there is this inconsistency on limits for individuals that don't apply to groups. And so that may be something that gets more and more acute as a conflict.
All right, we'll watch for that. President Trump posting just moments ago, the U.S. Supreme Court just took restrictions off political spending, exclamation point. Big win for Republicans, and more importantly, the First Amendment. Shannon, your reaction.
Yeah, and as the professor has pointed out, I mean, the opinion makes it clear this is, even though it was brought by Republicans, it benefits all parties. It is not a partisan decision. They say this, whether the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, or other parties, all political parties and candidates going forward can compete equally under the same rules regarding coordinated expenditures, can structure their fundraising, spending, and political speech on a level playing field as they see fit within the law. So some will tout it as, hey, it was brought by Republicans, the Supreme Court's doing them a favor. But what the court says, this is to benefit any political party out there that has these expenditure, regulations, and it's not something that is just going to be a win for Republicans. If Democrats choose this funding model, they can do it too.
All right, and I mentioned we have a special guest coming up in a few moments on the men identifying as women in women's sports. We already have seen the NCAA say they're not going to separate out and bring transgenders into women's sports. So that was one thing that was already on the side of perhaps getting us to the point of where the U.S. Supreme Court just upheld on a different issue what the president wanted. So, Shannon, you were just talking about what the president wanted on finance, campaign spending, federal campaign spending, and that was one win for him. But another huge win is this other topic. And I want to bring in another voice on the conversation, Charles Marino, former DHS advisor. Great to see you. I'll get your sort of overall reaction to what's transpired. Charles.
Well, I can tell you, I think the Supreme Court blew it when it comes to birthright citizenship. President Trump and his administration were exactly right when looking at the causation of illegal immigration, to look at the incentives, which include entitlements and birthright citizenship. I think to ignore those would ignore solving the problem, ultimately, of what caused this mass illegal immigration into the United States. The American people lost today. And the reason why they lost today is because our national security was ignored. The current threat landscape was ignored by the Supreme Court, and the burden to the American taxpayer was ignored based on entitlements. We have no further to look, Harris, than the Somali community in Minnesota, where head of households, including Somalis in the country illegally, account for 87% of welfare. After 10 years, that number goes down to 81%. This burden is going to be astronomical. It will continue to serve as an incentive for illegal immigration. And I predict we're going to see a spike in attempts at the southwest and northern borders based on this ruling alone.
Wow, that is quite the prediction. And it's not just based on looking at history, which would be a good indicator, but also just your experience with knowing what it takes to vet all those people at the border. If we should ever flip the switch again in this country under different type of leadership on the left, if that should ever happen, what really could be next? And that would be more of this birthright citizenship. By the way, China is already reportedly doing a lot of this in the country already. They're not coming across the border, they're flying in.
Yeah, that's why it's a threat to the national security of the country. This has been exploited for decades. And why the Supreme Court would leave an incentive like this on the table, which basically validates come into the country illegally. This, again, is the equivalent of when Ali Mayorkas was Secretary of Homeland Security and in the first week of the Biden administration said, we're not telling you not to come. We're just asking you don't come now. This is the equivalent with the Supreme Court ruling. They're putting up the stop sign, yet waving everybody into the country illegally under the table. And it's going to continue to cause grave threats to the American people, both from a public safety standpoint and a financial standpoint.
Charles Marino, always great to have you on the program. Thank you very much. Shannon, I want to quickly come back to you to put a button on the next topic that I was talking about, and that is men and women's sports.
Yeah, and this decision today, a big win for West Virginia and Idaho. And you mentioned the NCAA, the Olympic Committee, and others have said that women that are biological should have freedom to compete in their particular leagues and their particular activities and events without biological males, biologically born males, being able to intrude on those spaces. And so you now got 27 states, you have a number of top sports organizations, and you've got Justice Kavanaugh for the majority saying, yes, they deserve to be free of that. He also did a big long list, and again, he's got athletes in his house, female athletes like you do, saying that there's every time you give away a spot or a medal or a scholarship, it's a zero-sum game. Somebody's losing that opportunity.
That's right.
And certainly that could not have been intended under Title IX.
Well, that's part of it, and it also changes the trajectory of what young women can do once they're out of sports. I mean, if you have all of that leadership and all of that mattered to get you to stand on a podium against a whole lot of qualified athletes and have the gumption to say, I am the best. I mean, that takes a lot, and you wear that on the inside as you live the rest of your life. If you get that ripped out of your hands because a man took it, that sets us back previous to Title IX. That takes us all the way back to, I don't know, should we even have the right to vote?
Well, he talked about the blood, sweat, and tears that female athletes put into absolutely trying to get that much faster, that much stronger, all of the things that they compete to do, to have these opportunities that Title IX was supposed to guard and rope off for them. Yeah,
I mean, it really does stab at our spirit. This relives it and lifts it to a different place, and that's a blessing. Great to see you both, Jonathan and Shannon. Thank you. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.